Okay, so thank you all for joining us. And Richard, if you'd like to take it from here.
All righty. Well, hey, I'm glad that you're here tonight. And I know it's called, using Ancestry in effectively. I like to rename it the new look at Ancestry.com because it's always changing. Um, well, now I got to make sure that my slide here works there. Sorry. Change there. All right. Changes happen. I tell everyone just get over it. We start using a computer program or a website, we get very comfortable with it, then bam, all of a sudden it changes. And sometimes the changes are for good, but many times they are not for good. I will call them officially bad. And what it is it's forcing us out of our comfort zone. And so we have to learn a new way to do the same things that we've always done. Now, part of the creed of the Marines is to adapt and overcome. So when it comes to Ancestry.com, we have to adapt and overcome. Who knows what the changes are going to be coming with the company? It had been sold, and so we expect the more and more records to be available, but as to how it's going to behave and what it's going to look like, we're not really sure. So we're going to look at some of the images illustrating what I call the new ancestry. And then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end to take a live drive through my Ancestry account. And so you can see some of the things that you can do. So this is the welcome. And you're actually seeing a very, very old picture because I called the file the Research Active 2014. And I think if I put my glasses on, I can see it. It says 2,981 people that were in it. And that has changed dramatically. We will see that when I go to the live session where I'm approaching 8,000 people in the tree. So when you log on to Ancestry.com, of course, you're going to have an account. One of the things that they do offer is a 14-day free trial that allows you to see if it's really going to work for you. And then they have different levels of it in which that you can sign up for whether it's 6 months or a year. They have one that is US only. They have the deluxe, which will take you across the world. They have add-on products, the newspapers.com, and then the newspapers.com deluxe, and they have Fold 3. All of these companies are part of Ancestry.com. But in the basic Ancestry package, you have research, again, depending upon which one you take, the US only or the international. For me to have the US only was really pretty much a waste of money because my family is based in Canada. So being here in the United States means I had to have the international. So it took me all of about 15 minutes to decide I had to pay more money. Now, one of the things that I've had asked to me a number of times is, can I only have one tree? And the answer is no. You can have many trees. You can manage many trees. Now, on this list that you see on the slide, the top one definitely is my family tree. It was what I was working on way back in 2014. And then the 3 trees below it are cousins. And there were 2 different cousins that were working on the Strickland family, and they gave me either guest or editor permission to their trees. And then the Reeds of Marytown is a cousin that's in a very specific region of Newfoundland. And we worked closely together for a couple of years, and we were able to solve some family mysteries working together, actually places where we didn't have documents. So You see the top menu. We're going to look at each one of these items. So the search menu is the one that most people use. This hasn't changed in years. Normally, I start off with all collections because it's going to look at every possible option that they have available. And you'll see that you want to be able to give as much information as you can to narrow it down. If you are looking for somebody by the name of John Smith, I mean, you are going to get millions of records. How do you know that it is the John Smith that you're looking for? It's just way too common of a name. It'd be kind of like in Ireland looking for a Patrick Sullivan. It's impossible to figure it out. So you have to give more criteria. But once you've had your foundational data collected, you may want to look at some very specific information, particularly immigration. If you found that they were born somewhere else in a different country, and then they're here or they came to the United States, you're going to find some valuable information in that. So you can restrict it to that. Now you can also look at public member trees. And there is some value in looking at what other people have researched. However, we're going to talk about some of the dangers of that. Not everybody is a good researcher. Some people have what I call the shaky leaf syndrome. And so every hint that they're given, they accept it and make it a part of their tree, whether it be true or not, whether it be proven or not. So the public member trees are there to use. Now, there's very basic military records in the Ancestry.com. If you want more, you go to Threefold, and that's a different subscription. Now, under the DNA, which is one of the hottest topics we have today, we get to look at your DNA results. Now, to understand the DNA results, there's a lot of work. There's a lot involved with it. But we're going to see during the live drive time that Ancestry has really fixed things. They've made it better. Now, when I first did my Ancestry.com DNA test and the results came back, they were very disturbing. I grew up being told that we were of Scottish heritage, and I found nothing in there of Scottish. It was all English, 97%. And then there was a breakdown of several other countries where it was like the Irish was the one that I was trying to find for my son's sake, and it was 0.1% Irish. So it essentially means that there was one Irish person somewhere back in my tree. That was it. But over the years, the more and more people that take the DNA test, the better the results become, because Ancestry has a larger group of people to test against. And so now I just got a recent update from Ancestry, and it has changed dramatically in that I now have 21% Scottish. This is starting to line up with what I was told when I was growing up. Does it mean that the DNA test was wrong? It does not. I've only taken one Ancestry DNA test. I have taken 5 DNA tests, and different companies and that, and the results pretty much always agreed with each other. So now I need to go back and look at some of the others to see how they've modified. But again, it's really because the more people that take the test, the better and more refined the results can be. Ancestry.com has a pretty good help session. The support center, they also have this community. And the community is, when you're looking for very specific information, there are people that contribute to it. There are other members of Ancestry.com that ran into a problem. They got a solution and they posted up there for people to research and to find and use to help themselves. But the support center itself that comes directly with Ancestry.com is excellent. I actually had to go look at it today because I had forgotten how to do one particular thing, and that was to change the home person. I was doing research for one of my cousins, so I made him the home person. And then I'm like, oh, I got to get myself back as the home person. And it just wasn't obvious to me how to do it. So I used the support center and had the answer in about a minute. And then we have some extras. And these extras are interesting. They do have apps for both the Android and the iPhones. There are some photo books and posters that you can do. I am not a huge fan of Ancestry.com or even their old software, Family Tree Maker, as being the one that I would do my reports in. They have very limited types of reports. Pro Genealogist is if you really need help and you want to hire a genealogist to do your work for you or to help you get through some sort of brick wall. The Ancestry Academy has a lot of training materials in there and videos, and I think we'll look at one in a little bit. And of course, you can customize your profile. One of the nice things about this is you can set it up the way you want it, you know, which email address you want to use, which picture you want to use for yourself. You'll see my picture in a few moments that I chose to use. And it's because I have a photograph with one of my best friends. It's called the Lord Stanley Cup. I'm a huge hockey fan. So that is my picture I use for just about everything. So here we are looking at that screen from 2014, 2,981 people, 296 photos, which was not bad at the time. You'll see listed there the home person, that is Noah. That is my first grandson. So when I started out, I cheated a little bit. I started with Noah because I knew his information and I knew my son and then myself, my father and my grandfather. So I didn't have very much research to do to get started because I knew of 5 generations. And so that was exciting. These numbers are blown away right now. Okay, so here's a quick look at the family tree view. This is the most common view that I use, and I recommend people to use because they're able to, you know, visualize the way that the tree breaks down. So at the top there, we see Richard J. Reed and Lucretia White. That is my great grandfather and my great grandmother. And I've been able to find a lot of information on both of them. Down in the bottom left-hand corner of the picture, you see a little schematic, a little picture of your tree. Notice it's pretty flat at that point. This is early on. This is, you know, I only go back several generations. Again, I had 5 generations starting off. Right away, my great grandfather, Richard Joseph Reed, you know, he was the 6th generation. And I have been able to go back officially one more generation in the Reed family to his father and mother. And then I think I have solved the next generation. I just haven't fully proved it to my satisfaction. So a lot of people are happy if they just have one document. I want to have 3 documents on every person. So, you know, I'm just holding myself to a higher standard. So here I am looking at, you know, these are my grandparents, my dad's parents right there. And you can see the picture that's there. Now you can't read it, but that's their marriage record. This was a great find because we knew when they were married, but we never knew what year they were married. And I finally found this. I found this document not on Ancestry.com, not on FamilySearch.com, or on any of the major databases. I found it on a small database from the Cape Breton Genealogical and Historical Association in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. And they had all these records, and now they're available on Ancestry.com and Family Search. So you can find any person, anybody that's in your tree. You just type in their name. It always tells you who the last person is. And if you're really not sure, you can always use the list of all people. Now, even at 2,800 people, that would take a while to go through the list. So here I am. We were looking at my record for my great-grandfather, and you see the information is provided there at the top. I have a document, a proof document as his photo. I do have some photos of him, but I decided to use this one because it provided the most amount of information. That little image is actually his death certificate, which provides a lot of details, including what he did as a career, when he retired, all that. But in Ancestry.com, they give you the summary right at the top there with his name. They have his birth, his death. These have been verified, and it identifies him exactly who he is to me. He's my great-grandfather. Now, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you have the facts. And so they do it in chronological order. And it's associated with one of the proofs that you might have for them. So in the center part are the sources. So I see the 1901 and the 1911 and the 1921 census of Canada, where he is listed in it. And there is no 1941 to work with. 1931 is not available yet. So that's all I can do for census. And you see over in the far right, we have his family. And so you see his parents are named William Reed and Ann Newman. And to the very bottom of the screen there is Lucretia White. That is his wife. And his wife died relatively young. And long before him, I think it was 1936 she died. He died in 1952. Now, if we were to expand that screen, you would see the list of children. So we get a few of them here. This is, looking a little bit more detail. And we see I have a find a grave record for him, which is useful. We can attach that to your record. And I encourage you to get images of all these documents. See, the documents are the most important thing. Family lore is, it's a good heads up and ideas and that, but you really want to find proof for each part of their life. That's why I have his death certificate there as his primary photo. Though we see some of the names here, several of these folks I did get to meet when I was very young. The one near the bottom there, Joseph Richard Reed, I never got to meet because he died in World War I. And Fred, I remember. Albert, I remember. And the next one that you don't see is Percy, and that is my grandfather. And of course, I did get to meet him. And so several of the siblings I've got to meet and get information about the family. So when you're entering in the facts, you give the information. Now, again, this is for his death. And so I know he died on October 2nd. And to see the way it's written there, day, month, year. It's a European way of doing things, but it is the way you want to do it in Ancestry.com or any genealogical research. And usually the month, you just use the 3 letters, and for even short months like June and July, you just use 3 letters. You put the location of where it happened. Now you see there's some other things that we can look at and that we can add. Media. Under the media, I was able to add, a digitized document of his death certificate. And of course, we could go into this. You want to go into the source citations as to where you found it. So here it is. This is his death certificate. Tells me a lot of information about him. Tells me what he did. He was a ship's carpenter. When he retired at the age of 70, he was 92 when he died. Over in the far right, it tells me the cause of death was a cerebral hemorrhage, which I researched out and found out that it was as a result of a fall. And so it all makes sense, all official. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, if you're able to see that clearly, it gives the name of his mother and father. Now, if you were to read that, you would see that it says different people. I know, and we have proven his father is William Reed, but his death certificate says Alexander Reed is his father and Mary Crocker is his mother. And there's a good logical reason for that. And it's this: his father, William, drowned at sea 3 months before he was born, and his mother, Ann Newman, died in childbirth. And so he was raised by his oldest sibling, which we figure out is Alexander and his wife, Mary. They were older, and Alexander was already married when Richard was born. All right. So now we got these family tree hints, and you will get a long list of them. When we're looking at the graphic view of your family tree, you will see a little green leaf in the upper right-hand corner, the shaky leaf, that is giving you an indication that there is some sort of possible hint. And I use the word possible. There are some people, again, that I describe as having the shaky leaf syndrome. As soon as they see that, they accept it as being the gospel truth, and that is not the case. Now, in the newest version of Ancestry.com, you will also have a blue box. The blue box means that there is a record or something entered in on Family Search, and you can go there and look and maybe find the information that you're looking for. So again, there are hints. We can get hints from photos in other trees. I love collecting photos. When my last trip to Nova Scotia, my dad had a whole bunch of photos, and we sat at the dining room table, and I had my portable scanner, and I scanned every one of the photos and logged them on a piece of paper listing, okay, photo 1, and he knew everybody that was in it. In about 75 or so photos that we went through, there was probably only one photo where he did not know every single person that was in it. So that becomes very useful to use in your research. I do have a cousin that lives in Prince Edward Island, and she is our photo queen. She just searches for photos everywhere, and she's a great source for my mother's side of the family, because that's the side that she's on. And again, I've been able to see photos of people that I remember, but I met them when I was a kid. Under the age of 15, I met many of these folks, and now I have photos of them, compliments of her work. And then, of course, this, I think, is the most vital thing of all: finding hints from vital records, birth records, baptism records, marriage records, death records, burial records, military service. Any type of real documentation is critical. If you're just going on somebody's memory of who was who back in the days, that is just not enough. Now, we see here, and I picked this particular person Wilfred Vignola, who was born in 1905, died in 2005, in Quebec, where they have great records. This actually comes from the Drouin collection, which is the records that the Jesuit priests kept in Quebec, and they are immaculate. If you have French Canadian heritage, you are easily going to be able to find proof documents all the way back into the 1700s and sometimes into the 1600s, and I have found some back to the 1500s when they come from France. But this is an excellent collection. The American French Genealogical Association down in Rhode Island, they have access to all these in better fashion, even more organized than Ancestry, but it is a part of Ancestry, so you can find it there. And of course, some of the extras I mentioned earlier, using the DNA, emailing one another. Ancestry.com provides its own email service. And so you can email somebody in there. All you need to know is either their email address or their username, which you'll get when you find them in some of the hints. And, I always keep it, on my phone, it's always with me, so I can always pull up and look at something. When somebody says something, wherever I am, I'm able to take a quick peek. And then, of course, the pro genealogists, I've never utilized them myself. I know a few people that have. And of course, the Ancestry Academy is something that will really help you because they have lots of great videos. So let's take a quick look at the DNA. Now, this is the very first DNA that I got. And, 61% Great Britain, the 21% Scandinavian. I was all excited about that because Scandinavian means Vikings. And quite frankly, that explained my children. They were so involved in medieval history, and they made weapons, and now some of these weapons that they made are being shared with my grandchildren, and we had them all here for a little while this summer, and they were out there with these big wooden swords and shields, and they just explained it. Well, as it has developed, the Scandinavian has gone away in my DNA. So I had my dad test it, and it reappeared. So we know it's there, but it's just back a few generations more than, I was really hoping. But if we were to expand out that 5 other regions, Ireland would be in there, and it would just be that tiny, tiny little piece of it. Now, over to the right-hand side, you see some of the DNA matches, and these become very useful. So we're going to look at some of the links here. These are folks that I am related to by DNA. Gwen Rutherham, the very top, she is of the Strickland clan, and we are very closely matched, and it's so exciting just to be able to communicate. This gives me a way to view the match, see how it's illustrated, where the connections are. And of course, then once you know their person's name, you're able to go ahead and email them and start swapping notes back and forth. There are some that show up very close. She is listed as a third cousin. There's, and you see a couple of my fourth cousins there. I've actually received some links in the recent last year that are second cousin, and that's pretty close. Now, I had somebody call me one time. They emailed me. They contacted me, and they said that they were my first cousin. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you are wrong. I don't know what you're doing for research, but I have 3 first cousins. I know all 3 of them. That was it. I mean, my mother's brother, He had 3 daughters. I knew them. They stayed with us. We visited, vacationed with them. That was it. My dad was an only child. Um, my mom and her brother were the only 2 that survived. They had another brother that was born and died as an infant. So knowing my first cousins was very easy. Now, finding second cousins, that's really exciting to me. But Gwen is my third cousin. We've done a lot of work together. Um, and so you want to find out how you are related. So I took somebody else here. This is the part of the Rose family. And here we have Morgan Snook. Nice last name, Snook. My 6th great grandfather. And he's actually pretty famous. He was a sea captain in Newfoundland, and he actually he was hired and worked with Captain James Cook for about 5 weeks when James Cook was hired by the British government to do a new map of the coastline of Newfoundland. And so we follow this tree back and we see how that this particular person, who is my 5th cousin twice removed, they haven't identified their real name. That's their username. But this shows exactly how we are connected. This is cool. I mean, this is exciting. Now, through this lady, Jane Lake, at the top here, through her family, I actually found a link to early Massachusetts history. And it has tied me in indirectly to the Mayhew family that owned Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. And so it's amazing what you will find once you start looking. Now, my great grandfather on this side here, again, my dad, he is a great grandfather, Cyrus Major. But he will also, if I were to look at my mom's side, Cyrus Major shows up again because there's a couple brothers and a couple sisters from 2 families got together, and the Majors show up in both sides, my maternal and my paternal tree. The Major family goes way, way back. I have a distant cousin who's done some research, and she claims in her books to trace the Major family all the way back to about 1000 AD. I have the books, and one of these years I'm going to go through it and I'm going to check all her proofs. So as you start meeting some of your distant relatives, you have mail. And this is the in-house system where you are able to communicate with one another and share information. So here again is shafts. I do have a picture, but I really don't know much about them. This was pretty early on, but it's through the DNA match. And so we're able to, you see in the bottom here, pedigree and surnames, shared matches, and maps and locations. All of those things are really useful. Again, as I look at the DNA results, I'm interested in knowing what surnames are available to see if they are surnames that match up to what I already have in my tree. So here we communicated, we sent emails back and forth, and it's kind of neat. Now, some people log on all the time. Other people, it may be twice a year. So, be patient. This is a quick look at the app on a phone. And again, not always the biggest screen in the world to work with, but you can do this on tablets as well as on the phones, whether they be iPads or Android tablets. And again, we mentioned earlier the Progenealogist for Hire. They have their own part of the site. And notice in the very bottom, nice bright green, begin with a free estimate. You send them what you're looking for and the basic information you have, and they'll give you an estimate as to what they anticipate the cost will be to do the legwork. And so there I am of my profile picture with Lord Stanley, and we can go through the self-paced courses. These are wonderful. They cover every possible subject that you could want to have answered. And so here we have, little videos with every aspect of it. These are all well done. Most of them are relatively short. So, if we have, a tough attention span, we're able to go through it very easily and understand what's going on. All right, now we're going to get to a live time. This is exciting. So now I got to figure out how to end my slideshow, open up my browser here for you, and take a look, see at my tray. There we are. Now if I expand this screen, I can see the folks that are on, or at least one person has their camera on. I always wonder, thank you, Judy. It's like I'm almost to the point that I want to make it mandatory. Everybody turn their cameras on so I can see what's going on and see the reactions and that. Okay, so here we are. We're now live on Ancestry.com. You notice I've changed the file name to 2019. I would do cleanups. Now, I do not just use Ancestry.com. There was a time, well, years ago, there was this commercial for about the internet. I think it was for Verizon, for DSL, and the guy, he reaches the end of the internet. And I'm convinced that at one point I reached the end of everything that was available for me on Ancestry.com. So I stopped looking for myself. I started using some other services. I'd love to do a session about using MyHeritage sometime, or Find My Past. And they've been very helpful. MyHeritage in particular. Our next time that we gather next month, we're going to be looking at Family Search, the free program and database to look at. But notice the distinction. Remember, it was just under 3,000. Now it's 7,508 people and up to 1,798 photos. Now, I haven't touched this in a while, other than a few additions and editing, but it is interesting. All right, so it's really grown. So one of the things that they do on there is they do show you what's happening, some of the newest things that they've added in there, and some of those may fill the gap of what you're looking for. For me, Washington, U.S. naturalizations, that means nothing to me. I'll never look there because we never had any family go out to Washington State. Now, the Massachusetts U.S. naturalizations, I will look there because we did have family come down here from Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Any records from Mexico won't work for me. Now, there is a slight possibility that the California State Court naturalization records may work for me, because we have the children of the great uncles that came to Worcester. Their children went west out to California. So it's very possible that I might find some of their naturalization records out there. Now down here we see some, what we call your shoebox. These are records that you find and you want to save. Now I know you're going to look at that and you're going to go like, not one of those seems to be a read, and they're not. The bottom two, John R. Fox, is a soldier that lived here in Brockton, Mass. Actually, he married a Brockton girl and lived in right around here. Um, and he is a Congressional Medal of Honor winner. And I was asked to do a little research for his family here last year. And so, these are things I would keep. I keep them because if somebody asks for them again, I can go back and grab them. We scroll back up here. We see fold 3 over here. We'll give you your military records. Archives.com is a separate service. Now, it's a separate license. It is $9.99 a month. And it's a great place where you're going to be able to order original documents. Now, I have found things in there. I keep a subscription open to it because I look at it several times a year as I'm doing research for other people. And then newspapers.com. This is, again, part of Ancestry. And this is the scaled back version. If you want more newspapers, you have to get the enhanced subscription, which I forget what it is. I usually get the deluxe package that has fold 3 and newspapers.com in it, but it still only has the basic newspapers.com. All right, let's see. So where am I going to go next? Now I'm going to go look at my trees. So that's my home. And of course, you notice right at the home left of the screen, you can start your searches right here. And you can add more options. This is vital. When, again, if you're looking for John Smith, you're going to get too many records. If you can give where they might have lived, where they were born, if you know the birth year, anything about their marriage, their death, where they might have lived, if you know any of the family, the more information you put in there, the better the search will be. And you can choose from all collections, or you can get very specific if you know that they were born somewhere else. Now, notice what it looks at: historical records, stories and publications, family trees, and photos and maps. So I always get excited when I find one of my family members in a historical record or a story that somebody else published. Finding them in somebody else's family tree can usually cause more confusion than anything else, but it's used as a hint. So now I want to switch over to trees, and notice now I have a lot more trees to look at. Many of these trees are from a third cousin down in Maryland that I've helped her many times. This MacKiev is an Irish family. It is the wife of one of my friends. And so I did some research. And these are other folks that I've done work for over the years. The Rose family is actually tied in directly. I have a cousin, Jamie. And so I've been able to find specific things. I do, I use traditional tools. There are people that do this, I think, in a possible manner. They're collecting email. They get the information all by email, and all the information they have is in email. It's not organized. So it comes in very scattered manners. So, try to have an organized system. That's what we talked about in Genealogy 101 to, go ahead and use the paper documents, or you can do a digitized version of it as well. So we're going to open up my tree, and there we have it. All kinds of stuff. Here you see the shaky leaf. All right, it's not really shaking, but it's there. So I'm going to go to something I suspect that I'm going to know what I'm going to find, but I'm going to go to my grandfather. All right, there are 7 ancestry hints. So I'm going to look at them. Now, here we have a hint. Now, interesting enough, this is their marriage record. but it tells me who submitted it. That's wrong. I submitted it. They borrowed it from me and they put it on their tree. And so now it shows up as a photo. So I can ignore that one because I already have it. All right, here is, their marriage record. And again, I already know it. I might want to take a look at the source information, and it really doesn't give me anything of use in there. And I already have this information. Now I can review it and it'll show it to me over here. And this is the information that I have on the photo. I've already entered it into my system. So I'm going to choose to ignore it. Now, here is another photo. This is of their headstone. And guess where it came from? The Cape Breton Genealogical Historical Association, submitted by Cameron. Well, Cameron, I think I beat you to it at one time, but it's very useful. You can pull it up, see what's on there, gather the information. That would be a photo that I'd want to save and have available in my records. We go down here, we find a voter list. All right. So when is this? 1968. Okay, I may not have that on mine. All right, so I'm going to review it. And he's listed 1968, Cape Breton to Sydney's. Okay. Now, occupation, caulker. You know what a caulker is? That's somebody that fills the cracks in the boards of a ship. He was also a ship carpenter, but his main job was to be a caulker. So I can remember my grandfather, and I don't know if you can see his hands looked like this. They were all crippled up. They were stuck this way with arthritis. The left hand was the shape of the chisel. The right hand was the shape of the handle of the mallet that they used. And they would stand waist deep in the Atlantic Ocean fixing ships. And so this is his, would I like to save this information to your tree? I'm going to say yes. And I am going to save to my tree. So I have saved that record. Now, here is the 1911 census. Now, I don't know who this is. This is definitely a mix-up. My grandfather, Percy, is not in the 1901 census because he was born in December of 1901, so he missed that census. But also notice the spelling of the last name. All right, R-E-E-D. That mistake was made a few times. Richard is the father, Lucretia is the right mother's name, but there is no Gilbert in the family. So I'm going to say ignore this one because that's definitely not him. All right, here we have a passenger list departing Puerto Cortes, Honduras. Okay, not too far off on his birth, but I can say safely that is someone to ignore. All right, so we've actually found photos, documents. Some were good, some were bad. Because I know who he is and what I have on him, I can review that. Now, here's public trees. All right, now here they have the right information. 10th of December, 1902. 1902, not 1901. All right, so I review. And this gives me the information, and it tells me the source. Reeds of Marystown, so Jessica. So her research is pretty good. We've worked together. The Wood family, I know that family. So these are the only ones that are showing up at this time. And they're not offering me anything new at all. There is absolutely nothing new in these records. So I'm not going to take anything from them. They're there, and we can leave it alone. Okay, now notice here, Basil Cyrus Reed, that's my dad. Notice when he was born, 1933. Notice what we found out is that when they were married was 1933. We always celebrated their anniversary May 2nd, but we never knew the year until I found the actual marriage record back with that's showing here that shows that they were married May 2nd, 1933. So Nan was, 8 months along when they got married. All right. So I want to go back to my tree. And we can see, and again, now I can just scroll all over the place and see other things. Now we have some other hints here. Let's look at Cyrus Major. Okay, so there are 7 ancestry hints, but I want to look at this one down here called through lines. This is new, relatively new. This is because of the DNA. And so when I click on that, it's going to show exactly how he fits in there. All right. Now, there's me, there's my dad. Oh, my grandmother. Now, I think we have her called Bessie elsewhere, but actually her name is Elizabeth Ellen Bessie Reed. So we know it's the same person. And we have her father, Cyrus. We have another sister, Dinah, over here, a great aunt. So this particular through line service is excellent. And this is free it comes with the Ancestry.com DNA. And so we can actually go and expand it out a little bit more. And this introduces us to the Billard family. And now it tells me who it was that did the DNA test, Lady Spirit, 1956. So she's somebody that shows up in all my DNA tests as well. But she's direct to the Billard family. And again, the Billard family is integral in my family tree. My grandparents, Percy and Bessie, my dad, they lived right across the street from the Billards. The Billards, Harold owned the corner store that was right next door to my grandparents' house. So it was very nice. I had to walk by it every day to school and on the way back. And when we lived with them for a little while, it was a nice hangout place. But Harold had a nickname in the community. He was Crazy Harold. I mean, he was a full basket case, but he owned the store, so we would support it. And his daughter, he had a daughter that was about my age, I think a year or so off. And, anyway, so we knew the family real well, but had no clue that we were related until I started doing this type of research. And then I'm going like, maybe that explains so much. So here's some of the other photos that I have in the DNA. For some, all I have is their graves. That's it. And when I highlight it, it tells me I have 18 DNA matches, and they're pretty good. Now, this is an interesting one. George Henry Ingram. No DNA matches, but I know who he is. He is, let's see, I gotta remember, he's a great grandfather. So, very useful tools you can find. Here's William. Now, William, I mentioned William as being the father of Richard, my great grandfather. So, this is my great great grandfather, second great grandfather. And the document that is being shown here is a transcription of marriages that were performed in 1839 by the Wesleyan missionary circuit riding preacher. And he performed a wedding for William Reed and Ann Newman. William and Anne in 1852 converted to Catholicism. So they and all their children were baptized in the morning, on a Saturday morning. And then Saturday afternoon, William and Anne were remarried in the Catholic Church because they couldn't be married in the Catholic Church unless they'd been baptized in the Catholic Church. And that was 1852, 7 years before William passed away, drowned at sea, and just not, a little over 7 years before my great grandfather was born. So this gives me some really good information. It picks up, here's a Strickland family, identifies who he is, and any DNA matches. And so I can just click on it, and it's going to show how I am related to him. Look at that. The Billards jump in there again. All right. Most of the luck that I've had is through my dad's side, but it gives me, some cousins here. Here's a third cousin once removed, and the Strickland family shows up on both sides of my tree, so it's very useful. All right, so we'll go back here to the tree. I can get there. There we go. And so you see when you've got the through lines, sometimes shows up again. I've gone through this so many times. It looks like all the links to family search are gone. So Annie Figure, she was one of the wives to Emanuel Strickland, not at the same time. But this gives me a link back to a Portuguese fisherman. And I'm able to track that family back. Look at how far back that goes to the Figaro family. So, which is very interesting. Now, if I were to scroll down, and I'm not even sure where I'm going to find her now, but if I were to find my daughter-in-law, she's French Canadian, and I have her family back now 22 generations. That is a long way back. So again, very useful tools. You got the search. Again, we looked at this briefly with one of the slides where you can select all the different criteria that you want. I like starting with as much criteria as I possibly can. And on occasion, it has happened where it comes up and says there are 0 records. So then I take out something. I drop off one of the facts that I'm asking for, and then I'm able to find it. Okay, the DNA, very interesting. Now we'll take a look at my summary again. Gives me a little bit of background. All right, so it's now 17%. They revised it just a little bit more. So 83% England and Northwestern Europe. And so that means a little bit of tie into France. This gives me some of the DNA matches. I've communicated with a few of these folks over the years. I'm not sure why I would want to do, well, this is view another test. Let's not order another test. Ordering another test for yourself is kind of silly because, your DNA does not change. So, but I can view another test. And so I'm going to view my dad's. And we'll continue here. Oh, that's not really what I wanted to do. I'm missing a screen here. Uh-oh. Will it let me out of there? Trying to. Okay, there we go. That was an online survey. Okay, I don't want an online survey. I want to continue on. I'm going to close that. I read it, discover your DNA story. So now looking at my dad's, I have not looked at this until right now, since they just did the last revision over the last 2 months. 92% England and Northwestern Europe. It's kind of, look at this. Now I got 5% Irish there with him. Ah, all right. We can see, that we have over 1,000 fourth cousins or closer for him. Now, Dad could care less about this. He knows what he knows, and that's all he's ever interested in. I want to find out more. So we discover the DNA story, and it's going to give us some breakdown as to where people. This is so cool. Sweden and Denmark. So look, there's my Vikings again. They have finally showed up. Other regions, 1,500 plus regions. But this map showing Southern England in particular is very valuable because I have found most of my ancestors down in this area here, the very bottom part of England. In this little blurb between France and England are the Channel Islands. And the Channel Islands keep showing up in my family tree, and I do not know why. Well, at least I did not know why, but it appears to be from the major family. So again, very, very useful what we can find here. Let's see if I can get back out of this. I want to go back forward one more page here. And no, that's not where I want it. This is the worst part about live. Okay, view another test. I forced my wife to do it. And look at this. Her family is Polish. And it's that, this is 100%. Of course, we accurate is to what we expected to find there. We have found several people here. 376 fourth cousins or closer. Not as many as we would find with my dad, that's for sure. But again, it depends upon the number of people that take the tests from a particular area. All right, so I want to go back. Now I want to take a quick look here. Let's see, which one do I want to look at? The Peel family. All right, this is my cousin in Maryland, third cousin, and it's amazing the story. It is actually through. This is looking at the Peel family. It is through her. No, actually, this one is showing. She's got the wrong one up here because this is showing her Gorse line. This is her adoptive parents. She was born here in the greater Boston area, was given up for adoption immediately. And our relationship are tied together through her birth mother. And it takes us, way back. It's a very large family that we're able to, that we're a part of. I actually got to go down and meet her. She lives about 20 miles away from our oldest son. And so I was able to go visit her one time, and she gave me a bound book, a binder of one branch of the tree that I had never done any research in. But the book is about 750, 800 pages in length. It's a very wealthy family down in Connecticut, but they're just tied in through her family to my tree. Now, one of the things that happened several years ago was that when I was going through her tree, she was going through her tree. She's using the family tree maker software that Ancestry had killed and then sold to MacKiev here in Boston. And her data file got corrupted. So she asked me to go get it, and I did. I remoted it in, I downloaded it to my computer, I repaired it, I sent it back. She's a happy camper. I'm looking at it going like, I wonder how we're really related. And so I found that common ancestor, and that's how I was able to prove that we are third cousins. But she had, I think it was about 118 people that I did not have in my tree. and I was able to grab them and copy, and they were closely in my families. Most of them were just siblings of some of the people that I already knew that I hadn't found yet. By the time I was done that evening, I had actually found about 1,800 people in the 10 generation span that were in her tree that were common in my tree. So that was pretty exciting. All right. Let's see. I see one thing here. Oh, let's check the chat there for a second. Okay. Again, we can click here at the top for the shaky leaves, and it will give you all the ones that you possibly have. And you can look at recent hints. Mine, I get them for all kinds of different people because I search other trees. But at the current record, this is live, there are 41,181 hints for me. How long will it take me to go through that? The rest of my life. Now, when I look at this, I look down, see where they are. 29,000 of them are records. Those are the types of things I'm interested in. That means birth, marriage, death records. The photos. There's right now. I had this down. If you can imagine, a year ago, I had photos down to 25. Going through them all, and I said, "Oh, I'll go finish those up." Never got to it. Now it's over 6,300 again. The stories are useful now. The stories are not real documentation, but these could be people's memories of a particular ancestor. And then, of course, I'm tied into 4,924 trees that belong to members. So looking at this one that came up, this is one of the most recent ones. Okay. And identifies who he is. He is a first cousin once removed. That's pretty close, given that I only know, not only know that I know I have only 3 first cousins. So I'd have to figure out how this person is tied in. And you see, I have several of them that are listed as first cousin once removed. Now, because that is so close, I am very suspicious of these. And so I need to investigate, particularly, now, this one up here, John Mackenzie, where he was born in Port-aux-Basques, Newfoundland, I suspect that this is going to be an accurate one because Port-aux-Basques, Newfoundland is where my mom was born. That's where my grandparents lived. That's where my 3 first cousins were born and lived for many years. So I suspect that this one might actually be pretty accurate. But notice the source is the U.S. Cemetery and Funeral Home Collection. So apparently he left Newfoundland, came down to the States. This one, not as reliable to me at first glance because it comes from the New York State Marriage Index and New Rochelle, New York. So is it possible that one of the Stricklands came down there, got married? Very much so, but I need to, research that out. But again, this is cool in the sense that it gives you the information where they came from. Here again, I don't know the Ross family, so I would be interested to see how that they are tied in. But this is a U.S. city directory. That a city directory is a reliable source. Again, now this is the Ross family. Oh, look at this, where they're coming from. They're coming from Ireland. But how did they get there? Who knows? Incoming passenger to where? It looks like they departed from Australia, arrived in England. I'm not going to hold a lot of weight for that one. So again, when you're looking at the hints, you've got to try and fit it into what you already know. And then if it looks so strange, just discard it. All right. We don't have much time left. But let me see if I can close that out. And then flip back over here to this screen for a second. And see if I can find it. I really like when you're doing research, you want to be able to document what you're doing. All right. Let's see if this comes up. Come on. There's no reason for my computer to be slow. Let's see if I can. Okay, so this is an actual study that I did for a family using Ancestry.com, and I'm going to go through it very quickly, just so you can get an idea what you can do. Now, Martin showed up at one of my lectures that I gave in Canton. We had a little chat, email request, gave me some information, and then the research began. And as you can see, it did not take me that long. It was 3 hours. So 6 brothers from Ireland, County Cork. They actually came from just outside of Cork, part of it. 3 brothers stay in Ireland. 3 brothers come to America. Family search, find my past, ancestry. They all offered the information about the birth records, and I was able to find them. The key was the baptism parish records. Those I found were very useful for me. I did not use the parish images at the National Library in Ireland. I just used indexes that I could. And here are the births of the 6 Kelleher boys. And so tracking Daniel, William, and Patrick, these are the ones that came to America. And from this point on, I just used Ancestry. We find when they arrived in America. What was very interesting is we also found that they came on the same ship, but different trips. We found information out about the ship. Again, thank you, Ancestry. And we were able to get this story, the story about the RMS Samaria. We were able to get it in one of those family stories. All right, here's the boarding manifest for William and Patrick that they're on it. And then try to central in on it a little bit. In both records, the father was identified as Dennis, which matches the records that we found. They were headed to Salem, Mass. They were both from Mill Street in County Cork. Both spoke English and both were listed as laborers. So here's their arrival in America, July 6, 1923. William wasted no time going to court to become a U.S. citizen. He filed it right away. And we have an address of him living in 60 Allen Street, Boston, Mass. And he's a pastry cook. And it gives great details. He's 5'8", 159 pounds, blue eyes, brown hair. Wow, all that from his declaration. And so we have a copy of his declaration. This is on Ancestry. Now we get information on Patrick, the source citation. That's always useful information. We found when he died. Okay. Oh, well, part of his death record is we have where he worked and where he got his social security number from. He got it through the railroad. Daniel's arrival, okay. He had a wife, Teresa. We find him in the 1930 census. We found the children. Okay, we know they lived in Brookline. He rented the home, but he had too applied to be a naturalized citizen, and he was a machine operator in the rubber industry. The 1940 census, okay. Here we go. We have some more in the family there, but we're missing somebody because somebody died in 1939. The guy worked in the retail ice and oil fuel oil company. And his wife, he uses Patricia instead of Teresa that she had used before. And again, it's likely it was just the enumerator didn't understand the accent. We find that all the time. So here we find his death record for Daniel. Now, Ancestry will only take you so far because after 1940, records are scarce because they're too new. So we start looking in newspapers. So I did use the newspapers.com, didn't find anything there. Obituaries, wedding announcements, those are very useful. I think I showed that already, Death. All right, so here is one of the modern newspapers in 2005. Now, I've left Ancestry to fill in the gap. And Teresa, she lived to be 100 years of age. I had all the named information, where she worked, everything after her husband died, and gives all the family details, lists all the family family members. We have coming up, here's a picture of the headstone. The next step was a family reunion. It was pretty cool that I was able to call the gentleman, Martin, in the evening and say, listen, I'm sending you an email with a whole bunch of documentations. And then I got this call back that he was literally crying on the phone because of all the information they found out, and had no idea about this branch of the family that was living down around the Cape and the South Shore. And so at Thanksgiving, they had a family reunion. They had family members met each other for the very first time. They've been separated for about 100 years, not knowing. So again, Ancestry is a very powerful tool in allowing you to find that kind of information. So this is something, again, I do all the time. I love sharing this information with people, and hope that you're able to have, well, I'd say as good as luck as I have had, but it is a skill set that you need to develop. And what you're really looking for are the proof records. That's what makes the difference, because we want to be sure before we tell people that, well, that was my ancestor. And you'll be amazed at who you will find in your family tree. All right, I know we have a few minutes left. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them. So you'd have to unmute yourself to do so. Stop the share on mine. Don't see anything in it. Wow, another group that has no questions. This is getting to be too much of a habit for me now. I just did one a week and a half ago, and it was live and in person, and that was great. And there were a ton of questions. So I hope you get a little bit better understanding of what you can do with Ancestry. Watching those videos is very useful, but the best thing is just get in there and practice. And next month, I know we're getting together again, and we'll be looking at family search. And I was in that today for about a half hour, doing some work for somebody just to see if we can, pinpoint information. It was great. They had the last name, I believe they thought it was Mattis. And I could find nothing with the last name Mattis, but I did find all the right names for the husband and the children, but the maiden name of the wife was Matthews. I can see how that could get confused with people, but I just sent that off to her right before dinner, and so hopefully she'll be looking at that tonight, and I'll get an email back saying, "Oh, What else can we find? Because it looks like they actually came to America. I did not look for the passenger records yet, but that would be the next thing to do. So we look forward to that next month for Family Search, but the Ancestry, practice, practice, practice is the only thing to do.
So the library does have an ancestry.com subscription if you don't want to get your own, or if you want to try it out. You can either use it in the library, or if you have a Drake-It card, you can use it at home with your Drake-It card. If you have any trouble accessing it, just give us a call and we'll help you out.
Yeah, the Ancestry at the library is great. It is a little bit restricted in the sense it doesn't have access to all the features that you may have seen there tonight, but it has the bulk of it. It has the search, and that's what you need to start with, and then decide if you need to, invest the money, because it is expensive. We always invite people that can come down. If you can make it to the South Shore, we have the full blown version at our library. Plus, we have a lot of other tools there. We have microfilm collections and a huge collection of books that's being added to constantly. And it's all genealogy and history. So, but we're glad we have researchers that are they'll be glad to help you. I think on the flyer had my email address. For this one, there really was no handout, but you can always reach out to me at friendsofirishresearch@gmail.com. And if you want a copy of the PDF of the slides tonight, you just email me there and I'll email that to you.
Right, well, thank you. If you'd like to register for next month's event, that's on Monday, the 15th. And you can do that now at drakeitlibrary.org/events. And tomorrow or the day after, you'll be getting an email from us with a link to the recording of tonight's program if you want to go back and watch anything, or if you missed some of the beginning. Thank you very much, Richard.
All right. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, everyone, for being there.